I awoke to a jarring sound, akin to someone persistently tapping an object against glass. In the haze of sleep, my first thought was of an intruder clumsily making their way through my house. But as I propped myself up, rubbing the sleep from my eyes, I realised my mistake. The noise wasn't coming from a window or any glassware. It emanated from the mirror on the opposite wall of my bedroom. At first, I thought it was a trick of my groggy state, a misinterpretation of some mundane nocturnal sound. But the tapping persisted, rhythmic and insistent, as if demanding my attention. Curiosity mingled with unease. I swung my legs over the bed, the cold floor beneath my feet anchoring me to reality. I approached the mirror tentatively, half expecting to find a logical explanation, perhaps a branch swaying against the window, casting shadows and sounds in a deceptive dance. But the night was still, the room bathed in an eerie calm that belied the sound source. Standing before the mirror, I saw nothing amiss, just my own reflection staring back, pale and drawn. The tapping continued, more urgent now, as if it sensed my proximity. I leaned in, my breath fogging up the glass, and then I saw it. Not a reflection, but a shadow within the mirror, a formless smudge that seemed to pulse with a life of its own. Panic clawed at my chest, a primal urge to flee from something so fundamentally wrong. But a morbid fascination held me in place, my eyes locked on the aberration before me. The tapping grew louder, more frantic, and I realised it was not random noise but a pattern, a coded message from a realm beyond the glass. I reached out, my fingers trembling, half expecting to feel the cool smoothness of the mirror. Instead, my hand met resistance, a palpable force emanating from the surface, repelling my touch. The shadow in the mirror writhed, its form becoming more distinct, taking on the semblance of a human figure, trapped and desperate. In a moment of reckless courage, or madness, I spoke, my voice a mere whisper. "What do you want?" The tapping ceased abruptly, the silence more terrifying than the noise. The figure in the mirror contorted, its mouth moving as if in speech, but no sound came forth. Then, with a sudden clarity, the tapping resumed, a frenetic series of knocks and pauses. I scrambled for a piece of paper, my hand shaking as I transcribed the sounds into dots and dashes, a rudimentary Morse code. The message was brief, chilling in its simplicity. "Help me." The air in the room grew colder, a palpable chill that seeped into my bones. The figure in the mirror pressed forward, its features becoming more defined, a grotesque parody of my own visage. It was as if the mirror held a twisted reflection, not of my body but of my soul, ensnared in a dimension of shadows. I backed away, my mind racing for a rational explanation, a way to break this nightmare's hold. The figure mimicked my movements, its eyes, my eyes, pleading for release. In a moment of desperation, I grabbed the heavy lamp from my bedside table and hurled it at the mirror. The glass shattered, the sound deafening in the silent room. But instead of shards falling to the floor, they hung suspended in mid-air, then slowly began to drift back, reassembling like a puzzle, guided by an unseen hand. The figure in the mirror solidified, its expression one of malevolent triumph. I stumbled back, my heart pounding, as the room around me began to warp and twist. The boundaries of the mirror blurred, expanding beyond its frame, its reality bleeding into mine. The figure stepped forward, crossing the threshold, its form gaining substance. A mirror image of myself, but imbued with an aura of unspeakable horror. In that moment, I understood the true nature of the entity. It was not a spirit or a ghost, but something far more ancient and malevolent. A being that existed in the spaces between, feeding on fear and misery, and I had invited it into my world. The doppelganger advanced, its movements eerily mimicking my own. In its eyes, I saw my life, my memories, twisted and corrupted, a dark reflection of my existence. I realized then that it sought not just to escape its prison, but to replace me, to live my life as its own. A primal instinct for survival surged within me, a determination not to succumb to this nightmare. I lunged for the reassembled mirror, my hands finding a large shard of glass. With a cry that mingled fear and defiance, I thrust the shard forward, plunging it into the heart of my reflection. The doppelganger screamed, a sound that tore at the very fabric of the room, reverberating with a palpable despair. Its form began to dissolve, unravelling like smoke caught in a strong wind. The mirror's surface rippled, a tumultuous sea of glass as the entity was pulled back into its shadowy domain. As the last vestiges of the doppelganger vanished, the room snapped back to normalcy, the oppressive atmosphere lifting like a fog at sunrise. The shattered mirror lay in pieces on the floor, each shard reflecting nothing but the mundane reality of my room. Exhausted and shaken, I sank to the floor, my breaths coming in ragged gasps. The terror of the encounter lingered, a reminder of the fragility of our grasp on what we consider real and safe. The night had revealed a world beyond our understanding, a realm where entities dwell, eager to breach the thin veil that separates us from the unimaginable. In the aftermath, I couldn't bring myself to reassemble the mirror, to restore the portal that had nearly been my undoing. Instead, I collected every shard, every fragment that had once been a part of that cursed object, and disposed of them, ensuring they would never again form a whole. But the experience left its mark on me, a deep-seated unease that lingers in the reflection of every mirror I pass. I find myself glancing nervously, half expecting to see that shadowy figure, to hear the tapping that heralds a connection to a world beyond our own. The rational part of me wants to dismiss the whole episode as a nightmare, a product of stress and an overactive imagination. But in the quiet of the night, when the world is asleep and I am alone with my thoughts, I can't shake the feeling that there's more to our reality than meets the eye. That night, I glimpsed something profound and terrifying, a reminder that there are mysteries in this world that are better left unexplored. Now, I avoid mirrors, especially in the dark, fearful of what might be lurking on the other side, waiting for a moment of weakness to cross over once again. The tapping sound has never returned, but the memory of it is etched into my mind, a haunting melody that plays on the edge of my consciousness, a reminder of the night I stared into the abyss, and something stared back.